I started to realize that I was less than in childhood. According to my mother, when I was very young, I was a tremendously cheerful and open kid. I would walk up to strangers with a big smile and offer them candy if I had some. I approached the world with wide-eyed innocence and a deep feeling of safety and security. I expected and received kindness from the people around me, so I shone brightly. And Jesus loved me. At Dundas Baptist Church, we sang this hymn over and over. It's the one song I still recall by heart. Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so. Little ones to him belong. They are weak, but he is strong. I drank that Kool-Aid. I believed. And why wouldn't I? As a kid, the truth behind the message of Jesus was simple and obvious. Treat people with kindness. Be nice, do good. Easy peasy. My childhood memories of Dundas Baptist Church in the 70s, with Minister Gary Caldwell and the very Caucasian congregation, are all wonderfully positive. They were good people. They were charmed by me, and the church was my family's community. I belonged and was cherished. By the time I was about 7, it was very obvious to me that I wasn't like the other boys. I didn't want to run around roughhousing. I didn't enjoy competitive sports. I didn't need to win, and I found most sports completely pointless. Mostly I wanted to sit and read or do arts and crafts. And if in a group of kids, I wanted to sit with the girls and dress up the Barbies and give them fun hairstyles, or play house. My besties were the girls, Trisha, Tracy, Carla. I was good at identifying and navigating towards the kind-hearted girls. The bullies called me gay, and worse things, of course. It amazes adult me that elementary school-aged children in the 70s knew how to be so cruel. But I suppose they were just channeling the cultural and societal zeitgeist. This was the era of Anita Bryant, crusading to save the children from deviant homosexuals. There were lots of mean kids, but my best friends liked me, and my family and church loved me. And Jesus loved me. So while there was a deep sting to being called names for being different, childhood Devin maintained a solid core of self-love. But by the time I hit my preteen years in the early 80s, those schoolyard taunts were hitting home in a much more painful way. There was a scary resonance of truth that pierced deep into my soul when a kid would hurl the insult, "You're so gay." Gay was evil. Gay was less than. And somewhere in my subconscious self, I knew that gay was my truth. For the first decade of my life, Jesus loved me. That was something I simply didn't question. But at the dawn of my second decade of life, this love was being revealed to be a lie. Minister Caldwell may have been telling me that Jesus loved me, but deep inside, I knew differently. To be entirely fair, I have no memories of Minister Caldwell preaching homophobic teachings from the pulpit at Dundas Baptist. But he didn't need to. Homosexuality was so taboo, so clearly and obviously wrong and against nature, that he didn't even need to mention it to his faithful flock of honorable Baptists. I was still attending church with my family, of course. The congregation was still welcoming, but there was a seed planted in me that was changing my Sunday experience. It was dawning on me that to Jesus and to the congregation at Dundas Baptist, I was broken. I was evil, I was unlovable. They just didn't know it yet. Panic, fear, and terror. Adult me can reflect back and feel those emotions starting to take root in 10-year-old me. But back then, I didn't feel them in an intense way. They didn't spring up quickly, fully formed. Just like my understanding of my queerness, these feelings appeared and approached slowly and quietly in the background. They became a constant, low-grade, existential rumble in the background of my otherwise normal preteen life. Fortunately for me, in the early 80s, brought a renewed interest in New Age and metaphysical thinking. So just as it was dawning on me that I was unlovable to Jesus, I was starting to notice intriguing titles on bookstore shelves on topics such as tarot, hermeticism, astrology, and magic. At some level, I probably figured if I was damned anyway, I may as well dabble in the forbidden dark arts. Despite my mother's eye rolls and her vocalized worries that I would turn into a charlatan, in 1982, for my 11th birthday, she gave me my first tarot deck and 2 tarot books, and my lifelong fascination with tarot and mystical occultism was born. By the time I hit high school, I'd compartmentalized my queer sexuality to the far recesses of my heart and mind. Not thinking about it was my brilliant solution. Of course, I continued to attend Baptist youth group and was baptized at 16 because these were things one did as a good Christian kid, and I very desperately wanted to be a good Christian kid. But in my heart and soul, I knew I wasn't really welcome in Jesus' house. In September of 1990, my family dropped me off at Wilfrid Laurier University. I had my favorite tarot deck with me, and while I was quietly terrified of living in residence away from my family back in Hamilton, I was also excited to discover who I would become in this new academic community. To keep myself too busy to think about my sexuality, I threw myself into my studies and into volunteering. And that worked quite successfully for the first 2 years. But by the 3rd year, it was dawning on me that I couldn't ignore my sexuality forever. I vividly recall one Friday night when I was drinking alone in my residence room, that it occurred to me that I would never have any authentic happiness in my life unless I came out and dealt with being gay. I was so scared that I sobbed for at least an hour. Fortunately, the self-love that my parents fostered in me as a child hadn't fully disappeared in the fear and self-loathing that society had foisted upon me. Deep inside, I knew I wasn't evil or perverted, and that I deserved happiness. And my tarot deck was adamant that I needed to let my unrealistic hopes for a straight Devin, I had to let them die in order for me to transform into the Devin I was meant to be. So on July 15th, 1992, with a bit of liquid courage, I walked solo into my first gay bar. By fall, I was coming out to my university friends, and in January of 1993, I told my mother, I'm gay. The cat was out of the bag. With my darkest truth revealed, my life quickly pivoted into a much happier place. My family's love was unwavering, and I quickly found a joyful sense of belonging in the Kitchener-Waterloo queer community. I started serving drinks at the local gay bar and volunteering at the AIDS charity. I didn't know anyone in Toronto when I moved there in 1995, so to make friends and find community, I started volunteering at the Lesbian Gay Bi Youth Line, and it was there that I met my best friend and favorite person alive. I knew I wouldn't get through this without her. Fast forward to June 2003, and the Ontario Supreme Court declared that the province had to start issuing same-sex marriage licenses to same-sex couples. Alana and I lined up the very next day the licensing office was open. I wanted us to marry quickly, since the Conservative government had the option to file an objection, and I wanted to make a political statement by getting married while the window of opportunity was open. So, following a small ceremony in our backyard on June 22nd, 2003, a Unitarian lay chaplain announced to our parents, siblings, and my grandma that Alon and I were legally married. Darn it. I'm almost done. When I found myself having an unexpected spiritual awakening in the summer of 2019, I felt a deep yearning for the type of religious community I felt so secure and loved in as a child. Knowing that Unitarians were cool with the queers, I looked online and discovered UCM. And it is here with you kind folks that I'm once again starting to feel a sense of belonging and spiritual community that I haven't felt since those happy childhood days at Dundas Baptist. My time at UCM has been healing for me in surprising ways. I've come to discover that my inner child had been holding fast to the spiritual wound of rejection I'd felt from Christianity. Jesus, it turns out, was the first guy to break my heart. I'd compartmentalized that religious trauma, that feeling of being less than. And only as I have begun to feel a sense of belonging and community here at UCM has that trauma resurfaced to start healing. My religious trauma healing will be a journey, but standing here today, I feel confident that I have found the right spiritual community to support me along that path. I may be different, and I'm certainly unique, but I'm not less than. And I'm proud to call myself a Unitarian Universalist.